Welcome to the Project One podcast, episode 6, but also a bonus episode of the Green Machine podcast, I suppose. I'll put it up on both, and it'll also probably be up on YouTube because of the first time in a long time I'm doing a video of one of these things, which I haven't done in forever. But yeah, so got, mate, Nick Hall, former podcasting great. Mate, you have just come back from, like, one of the probably like an ultimate accomplishment that realistically, like, it actually blew my mind how many people were in this race. If you had told me there was like 6 people doing this nonsense, I'd probably be like, oh yeah, cool. But tell me, so just before we get any further, just tell me about the actual race. Not, and I don't mean details, but just what is it?
What is it? So, I mean, I guess there's this niche sport, I guess, in running, ultra running. You know, it's growing, it's getting huge, it's global. You know, there's a World Series now with, you know, nearly 50 events around the world, and you know, these ultra marathons is anything over a marathon distance, but the UTMB World Series runs on ultra running in the mountains. You know, it's outdoors. It's not road running, it's trail running, and it's these big adventurous things. And the finals for this event is essentially the biggest trail run in the world, called Ultra Trail du Mont Blanc. It's been running for 21 years, starting in Chamonix, runs around the Mont Blanc Massif in the Alps, through 3 countries, 177 kilometres, with a very tight cutoff at all of the aid stations, with a maximum allowable time of 46.5 hours to traverse 10,000 vertical meters, so 30 odd thousand feet, so accumulatively more than sea level to the top of Everest.
Yeah, right.
And you're racing the clock the whole time. So it's the big daddy.
I didn't even consider that. Like, I was like, you know, I know you. So you've actually got an amount of time that you've got to get finished by. What did you say? What was
46.5 is the total hours, and there's off the top of my head, 10, 15 time cutoffs around the course.
So really? So you've got to get to certain points of the course.
Exactly, and that's all calculated on, you know, if you haven't reached this point by a particular time, you're not going to reach the end by the maximum allowable time. So, you know, you're clock watching for the entire duration, making sure that the pace you're keeping is keeping you ahead of the, you know, the invisible reaper, cruising around at the back there, and making sure you're in front of that window before you get spat out the back. And you know, I'm sure we'll go in more detail, but it's being a world finals, the cutoff. All these races have cutoffs from a safety point of view, but being the world finals and you know, a race you got to qualify for, the times are stricter than most.
Right.
And there's a pretty high DNF rate at this race.
Yeah, well, that's what I was like. We were watching. I was like, and we'll get to this a few times. I was, you know, you're running the thing. I've got this amazing life here. I was literally watching you on a graph go up and down, like, and
it goes for a while, hey.
Look, well, it's 40.
You can live a lot of your life while that dot's moving around.
To be fair, like, I'm not going to say I sat down there for like, you finished in about 40 hours roughly.
41, yeah.
Yeah, so 5 hours off the cutoff, which, to be honest, in a race that long, that's not that much. Like, it's, you know,
it was semi-comfortable.
Yeah,
it was semi-comfortable.
Yes,
by about midway, I started getting comfortable with that time and finding a bit of a groove. So.
I want to talk about, but I'm going to go back to this graph, because I'm watching this graph and I'm sitting there watching you climb these hills, these mountains. Sorry, let's not understate them. Also, there we've got like the live stream of it going on as well, and every now and then they flash back and show you the actual scenic.
Those drone shots get pretty daunting.
Mate, I'm looking at it from. I'm not even like, I'm looking at it through some buildings and in the background and watching these giant mountains go up, and I'm just like, I can't imagine hiking up one of those, let alone up, down, and like, and every time you hit a peak, like, some of us and some of the other boys were sending a few messages back and forth going, look, he's just hit a peak. That's got to be a good feeling. He's now on a downhill for a little while. And that's how, each time, because obviously, you know, you've got to kind of plan your race, as you said. You've got to know what you do, especially something like that. But how was it every time you hit the top of a mountain? Is that a good? I've got to this one and that's a part, or is that I've still got a shitload to go?
It's with something this big. You can't look once you start. You can't look at the race as a whole. It's just too big to actually wrap your head around. So, I had a number of things in place. My wife Sarah was crewing me. There were a number of points in the second half of the race that she could come to with some extra kit for me and extra bespoke nutrition and fresh set of socks. Feels like you're reborn, and things like that I could get on the way around. But I had a little laminated card that I'd made in my pocket from essentially it was aid station to aid station, and that's how I broke these things down. So okay. I'd get to like sit there at the start and go, right, I got about 8k of runnable flat. We're getting into the first climb. That's going to be X amount of minutes to an hour or something up the first climb. Should hit sundown because it was a very late start. This one starts at 6 in the evening, so you're basically straight into night within a couple of hours. We're bombing down into town. First major aid station. Boom. That's what I've got to achieve in this minute, and I've got to hit it around this time.
Yeah.
Get in there, reset, new drinks, whack some more nutrition in your pockets. Check this little card and go, right, the next bit should take me around this amount of time. I've got 5Ks of this into 2Ks of that into a vertical climb of this. That's my window. So you're just taking bite-sized chunks out of this thing for 2 days, essentially, because it's sometimes hard to get your head around just getting to the next aid station when you look at some of the numbers and the profiles of what these hills are. And it's like a lot of training goes into it. Like I've actually stepped back from the footy podcast this year with extra training and everything, but there's nothing prepares you for these.
And I was curious. That was kind of a question that was a question that was in my head. So I remember when you found out that you had qualified for this. First of all, I need to know about that process because we didn't really get into it that much when it happened, but I knew it was a big deal. Like I remember you being incredibly stoked that you'd actually even qualified for this thing. So
it's even harder than that too. So I mean, it's like I say, the sport's growing. The sport's super popular at the moment. With the whole World Series going on at the moment. But you've got to, have raced certain distances within certain times, which give you these stones, UTMB stones, and you've got to have achieved all of these things to go into a ballot, essentially. So at the finals, it's not just the 100 mile, which is the pinnacle race, the Queen race that I did, but there's also the World Finals for the 100k and the 50k as well. Sure. So at about 7,500, 8,000 people across those 3 races, that's how many slots were available across the lot. We had about 40,000 people enter.
Right.
So you go into that process. So you've got a worse than a 1 in 4 chance of actually making it. It's essentially a lottery process. So you've got to achieve quite a lot to even get into the lottery process. Then you just sit there and hope that your number gets drawn that year.
So there's an element of luck.
Yeah. Well, even that process.
But to even get to that element of luck, you've got to put some serious numbers in.
Absolutely. Yeah. So
can you give us some kind of indication as to the kind of things you were doing in the lead up that got you into that qualification process?
Yeah, so early last year I did my first 100-mile race over in New Zealand at the Tarawera, which was an epic in itself, was an epic achievement. You sort of built up to that over a few years of 50Ks and 100Ks and things like that. And that race opened the door for these opportunities. Now I'd sort of looked at UTMB, Ultra de Mont Blanc, as something I would probably never be able to do.
Right.
It's pretty bloody expensive getting over Europe, so it's a big commitment. But I've never been that. I mean, I'm not. When I say I've never been a good mountain runner, actually not that good a runner.
Right.
I don't win things. I'm not that fast. I'm just freaking stubborn.
It's not really the goal. Isn't to win against guys.
No, and that's the beauty of this. We're rolling up against the best in the world on the same course on the same day in the same conditions. But the bulk of the people in this race are age groupers like me. We're amateurs. And most of people will finish in the last 5, 6, 7 hours of this race.
Yeah, yeah.
But the elites did it in 20.
I was going to say,
which
I
is
think the
mind-boggling.
the guy that won
to
it,
see what elites will actually be able to do. But it's one of the only sports in the world where you can go and play the same game on the same field at the same time as these
as the
guys.
elite guys, and just
Yeah.
and they're finishing. I'll tell you, it was this is so dumb from my perspective, but I had to have a laugh at it because I was watching the coverage as you were, like, actually, to be honest, probably the last 4 or 5 hours of your run, like when you had footy on one screen, your thing on the other screen, and the watching that little dot come down that last bit and over the top last bit, but they've got the live coverage and they've got the guy who's interviewing stuff, like doing and what they've got for a lot of the live stream, they've just got the coverage of people finishing, and I'm seeing you coming down to the finish, and I'm like, yes, it's Nick's turn. I'm going to see Nick, see how he goes, and then they cut away to a guy interviewing people and looking at scenery and nonsense. But like, some of it wasn't nonsense. Some of it was like talking to winners and guys who had achieved incredible stuff.
Won, got a trophy, had a shower, come back down, and we're still out there trying.
That's what I mean. But and they'll come to guys, but what they'll do is they'll do a 5-minute walk to where this person's sitting. Like, do you know what I mean? So they'll walk around, and come and talk to this person, and then they did. And I'm just, and I'm at this stage, I'm like, you got to give my boy his moment. Like, he needs to be on.
I've got it. There's some content
footage,
floating around.
I know there's footage, but I was just like, not only for him, but I've been watching this dot for ages. I want to see him come home.
You need some closure as well.
I want to see him come home, and I swear, like, it wasn't. Would have been within the last 10 minutes or something of your and it's cut away and gone to something else, and I was like, and I was angry, and I was angry at this guy doing his job, and interviewing legit athlete, like the pinnacle. So this is his job. Like, for the people who are really into this, that's the content they want to see. I just want to see my mate finish by the finish line. So I'm annoyed at this guy doing his job, and I'm like sending stupid texts to people going, go back to the finish line, and just getting so stupid. But I had to have a laugh at it because I was like, when I think back in real, like, this guy's doing a job. He's interviewing people that have won it, and like right up in the top of the pile, and like, here I am getting annoyed that my mate who's coming, whatever it was. But speaking of, I know you said you're not in it to win it, or really beat anyone other than yourself. This is your challenge, which I appreciate, and that's actually one of the things. You know me, very. Well, I'm not sure, apprehensive runner. Like, I don't actually enjoy it, but I enjoy some of the things,
the achievement
about it. Like, I enjoy the achievement of it. I enjoy, and I actually kind of enjoy that it's hard work and it's something that I don't enjoy, because if I don't enjoy something and I still do it, that's legit discipline. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like,
this one took some discipline.
But
this was we're sitting here having a beer now, but I tell you what, haven't been many beers this year, mate.
Cheers, my friend.
There's a lot of the 1%ers for this one. So
I think you technically have to have a sip of your drink after your cheers too, by the way.
Well, I will.
You got to get on board there. But like I said, that's one of the things I like. I like being able to truly kind of challenge yourself. Like, if you've got your own running tracks that you do, like, for instance, I'm obviously a completely different scale, but if I'm doing a 5K, I've got the same track that I run all the time, and that's kind of my trial track to see what
your benchmark.
You know where you're at. Yep. Because if I'm doing one with more hills, it's obviously got to be slower. You know what I mean? So I've got a few benchmark tracks that I do. But I like that idea of being able to compete with yourself, and I think that's something about running. Like, if your goal is to do a distance and you do it, you win. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? If your goal is, this one actually gave you some parameters that you had to work towards, and you get through those, you win. Yeah. You know what I mean? You might not be doing it in 20 hours, but you're also not,
Well, and you're right. Like, the elites are a long way up, and there's some big gaps between humans and the elites, I guess. But it's still not messing. Like, for something that long to be able to actually do that loop is like I was sort of saying before, this isn't something that I'd realistically thought I'd ever be able to achieve. And I've only been running for 10 years or so. Like, you know a little bit of the story that had worked in motorsport and different industries for a long time, put on a ton of weight, got really unfit, had the kids and got worse.
Yeah.
And, had a sort of, light bulb moment and kind of got addicted to this game a little bit, I think.
Yeah.
Going through mass kayak enduro, 110 kilometre endurance race on a kayak as a, my first sort of big race, and then got into triathlon, which, again, didn't think I could even be able to finish a little triathlon. I did a couple of Ironman races in the end, and then started doing this. And I'd seen this UTMB as this, it's the pinnacle. Like it's the biggest race, one of the hardest, and, it's one of those big daddy things. I've never been good in the hills. This is all this race is. And big ones. So I'd sort of somewhat on a whim entered the lottery to go, well, if I get in, like the odds are well against me. If I get in, I'll have a decision to make.
Yeah.
I hadn't even told Sarah, my wife, that I'd entered. Like,
because you just like,
the odds are just
what's the
slamming.
point? Like, it doesn't matter until it happens.
And then like we joke about it now, but I was hiding up in the bedroom on draw night when they were drawing the lottery and just hitting refresh, and I got this email saying, your journey starts here. I was like, shit.
Wow.
That just got really real all of a sudden. Ran down the other end of the house, and I'm like, Sarah, you've always wanted to go to Europe.
That's a hell of a way to do it.
Well, I've just won the lottery. We're going. And she's, freaking out. And I'm like, oh, no, hang on. Not the lottery.
Yeah, wrong lottery.
We haven't won $1 million. I've got
money.
into a race.
We've got to
hang on, exactly. This is the one that costs heaps. So still a bit of a joke. I've won the lottery. We're going to Europe. And you're like, hey, oh no, not that one. Sorry, no. The race lottery. Let me explain.
A whole lot of money.
Yeah. Let me push you towards the cliff. Yeah. sorry about that. But and then it just went right. Well, how on earth do I do this? So, completely changed. My whole training regime and all the measurables that I'd been doing for every other race, and completely different mindset. And to be honest, super proud that went deep in this one, real deep in this build. Lots and lots of different things that we can touch on, I guess, but not just had to figure out how to get another miler in, but basically had to do it in a completely different manner, because the terrain, the landscape, the altitude, all of that stuff was completely different to what we got in Australia. So
so what do you do there? Like, how do you train? Like you said,
it's periodized, I guess. And like if we look at this one, I got in really early January. Early January, the lottery was drawn. So had 8 months or so of specific build up for this race. So broke it down into 3 periodized blocks. The first block was what we call base. So a lot of strength, doing strength probably 4 or 5 times a week, and building up that base and building mileage up, adding more hills. And at the end of that block, as we call it, had a 50k race.
Right.
So use that, and you sort of build up to that peak, then you recover for a week or so and start the next block. At the end of that block, we start adding more verticality, extra meters, more hills. And trying to replicate things that we know is over there. Like I know that a lot of the mountains were sort of 12 to 15% gradients, which is pretty decent. So what have we got? What can I access? The Blue Mountains. So go down to the Blue Mountains for weekends and just do reps up and down. Big hills down there for a day, like big sessions, while trying to keep kilometers up. Then did another race at the end of that one as a measurable, and smoked my time that I'd expected, and went, right, okay, this is all working. We've got one more block. That's when we started getting super specific, and probably doing somewhere between 100 and 120 Ks a week. But most of that, probably two-thirds, three-quarters of that was more hill sessions. So the distance was almost a byproduct of how much time I was spending on hills.
Right.
Overlapped with that. Started doing 3 odd sessions a week on a treadmill in an altitude chamber, hyperbaric chamber.
Right.
So doing sort of hill running reps at a simulated 4,000 meters, which is higher than the race gets, but just sort of teaching your body how to deal with lack of oxygen and changing your body's behavior at lactic thresholds, which you hit on big mountains at altitude and things like that. And I'd never done any of that before. Really had no idea until I got there whether how well it was going to work. I mean, a lot of people do it for training up for Everest Base Camp treks and things like that. But that worked $1 million. You know, all these little 1%ers all added up. You know, every single day I had to go through a yoga stretching routine before going to bed. You know, just everything was discipline because it was the 1%ers all added up, and this is one, you know, to be frank, terrified me.
Yeah, fair enough.
And fear is a great motivator, and you know, when you wake up and, you know, the more, you know, you've got a little bit of a view in the window. You've seen some of the telecasts. You've followed it along, and it looks daunting. The closer you get, and the more you know, the freaking scarier it gets. You know, to the point where when you're actually standing on that start line and the iconic music starts up before the race, and, you know, you're just like, oh, we're not pretending anymore. Like,
this is on.
We're not working towards it. Like, it's on now. We get one shot at this.
Okay. We'll come back to that, because I like the amount I don't want to shortchange any of the pre stuff. So you've said a few times there, and you said, well, we did this and we did that and we did this and we did. Support crew has to be. Yeah,
it's big. So like and, you know, lots of people and lots of advice and lots of shoulders to lean on and things through this. So I work through the Vert Run team, which is an online coaching group. They sort of run a program and what would you say, arm's length comms with a coach to bounce things off, and, you know, monitoring what all my sessions are doing, and, you know, I provide feedback and we customize that all the way through. When I say we, I'm often talking about my family.
For sure.
And while they're not out there on the hills and all that sort of stuff, like when you're punching, call it 20-25 hours a week worth of training in on top of a job and commuting and everything like that, it is a team effort, because she's picking up the slack.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, there's no denying that it's a pretty selfish sport at times, that you take a lot of time away. And
to be fair though, like, and I reckon anything that's that kind of level of commitment, like, takes hours and hours away all the time. Like, I can only speak from my own experience. Like, I have been doing jiu-jitsu now for 15 years. Like, basically, I think a year longer than I was dating Lauren. So I'm out at the moment I'm out 2 to 3 nights a week, depending on the week. I'm coaching, so I'm prepping for lessons and stuff at the moment. That's just now. I'd say, like, it's there's no pinnacle. I mean, it's the same as any sport. Like, whatever you do, you can get better. I got my black belt in December last year, and for me that was like the biggest achievement I think in my life. But every day I go in and think of what else can I do. You know what I mean? So, what my point is, it doesn't end. But when I was in that last stage, like, study was big. Like, I was looking at techniques, making sure I knew everything I needed to know, making sure that I was prepared to get, like, and it was just a promotion. I didn't have to do a race. I didn't have to fight anyone. I mean, there's definitely aspects of physical testing, but it's mostly in the lead up. It's not a turn up and do a black belt test. So, like, I'm not home so many nights a week, even still, and your family makes the sacrifices
absolutely
all the time, and I think it's such a, like, you've got to appreciate them so much more, because, like, and it's funny, it's because it's one of those things, if they said to you, hey, I need you to shut that down, you'd probably go, okay,
and
I get it.
And we have, to be honest, like, I'm quite open with the family, and, you know, like we mentioned before, I've done a couple of Ironman races now. That is 3 disciplines to train for: swimming, cycling and running, and that was taking 20-25 hours a week as the kids were getting older, and they'd sort of mention something every now and then, like, oh, you're off riding your bike again this weekend, and you're like, yeah, I got a 7-hour ride to go and do, or something that, and did a couple of those, and every time we finished one, we'd sit down and have a little debrief, and it got to the point where Sarah sort of said, listen, they're noticing you're gone, and I'm like, oh, are they? Okay, that'll do.
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
cool.
Yeah,
that's
for sure.
That's fine. We only ever do. Well, I only ever do one of these a year, one pinnacle,
Yeah.
if that, maybe
Yeah.
one every two.
And this was
depending
a
on how big
one.
it
This
is.
was such a giant one.
And we'd reflected on this in Chamonix, meeting up with some other people talking about it, and it was the first time the light bulb went off that I went, "Hey, I'm sorry, but I think this has actually been as bad as Ironman." In hindsight, like it didn't plan that way, but this has been full on. So yeah, like I say, we only ever do it sort of one pinnacle now. Like I won't do any meaningful races for the rest of the year.
Yeah, fair enough.
So it sort of has to swing the other way now that I'll need to train like I've been out running this morning.
Yeah.
Like I said, just for my health, mental health, physicality, all of that sort of stuff. Hopefully getting the kids down for little kids triathlon next weekend. So we'll start training and doing some stuff with that, and eventually figure out what's coming next. But now it's just maintenance and keeping healthy and keeping fit but you've got to put the same amount of time back into the family that you've just taken out of it.
And that's right. But I mean, I think it's important because I think part of a good relationship is understanding the person that you're with, and like some people are happy to just be home all the time and watching TV and going for their morning exercise and stuff, and then there's other people who have these aren't happy unless they've got a goal in front of them.
Yeah, and it's I haven't quite figured out what the term is, but it's not purpose, because by saying having a purpose of a big race like this sort of sounds like the rest of my life doesn't.
Yeah, no,
but
I know what you're saying.
Having this sort of underlying, when you go, you're a parent. Like there's a lot that goes into that. I've got a job that has its own stresses. Life, being a husband, all of these things. Life has all of this. If you've got something to be working towards, you can go get in your own head, go for a run, push up some hills, do all this. It creates that sort of bedrock. I don't quite know what it is, the right term, but it just gives you that. For the next 6 months, I've got a direction to go.
Yeah.
And that's going to give me enough time to get my head in the right place, be healthy, keep everything sort of centered, and that's a direction I'm heading.
And that's good. I was saying, I think like having a goal is, and it's funny because it's actually, a goal can be both an absolute gift, but a gift and a curse, so to speak, because at some stage you hit it, and then it's gone. You can't do that one again, or if you do, it's great. Like I'm not saying that, like if you went and ran a 50k race, I guess the next time you could beat your time. Also, but do you know what I mean? It's not. Yeah,
absolutely. And that's been a real challenge through all of this journey. Is the first monstrous one I did, like the first Ironman I did, you put a lot into getting yourself in a position to be able to do an Ironman, and you get a few pats on the back and people send you some nice texts and all of that sort of stuff, and then you wake up a week later and go, well, what do we do now? No one cares anymore.
You go into a podcast,
it's really only for me,
and then the next day it's gone.
Then you wake up and go, well, I might go for a run, but I don't need to. What am I
aiming at?
And you sort of, it's twofold. There's the mental aspect to it, that there is, it's well spoken about in triathlon circles as a post Ironman blues. You kind of lose that functionality of getting up every day, hitting this mileage, doing this swim. Every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'm at the pool in the morning, and you kind of lose that direction a little bit. But also chemically and things, your body having been operating on that peak and burning that, your metabolism doing what it does, and you come off that, and you start eating a bit more, and you put on a bit of weight, and you're not burning it off, and all of a sudden you just kind of float and wallow. And the first time it happened to me, it was pretty gross, to be honest. Okay. But once you expect it to come, you can sort of plan in advance. Like this time, twofold, because we were in Europe and because I wanted to sort of pay it back a bit, and because we wanted to take advantage of being there in the first place. We went straight from Sham into Italy for a week, and ate, drank, spent time together as a couple, had a fantastic time, and that sort of absorbed the blues period. I guess it's usually that sort of week adjustment afterwards, and you can plan for these things.
Yeah, for sure.
When they're coming. Yeah. When you don't know they're coming, they can hit you like a truck.
Yeah, and I found, like I said, I found that same thing in jiu-jitsu. Like I'd gotten, like, and I knew I could get better. So it wasn't a case of knowing I could get better anymore, but you have this goal for so long, like, and it's like a martial art is fantastic because there's that next step from you start at white belt and you know, go to whatever, and levels through in jiu-jitsu it's 5 belts, but like white, blue, purple, brown, black. But there's kind of a target, you know what I mean? And if you're in the right place, you kind of, like, different places do different styles and gradings, and some people just throw you a belt out of nowhere, say you're this now, but others are going, okay, here's your goals, these are the kind of things you should know, and that suits me. I'm a checklist kind of guy. Like, I need to make sure and even if it doesn't mean the checklist isn't the be all and end all, it gives me something to be aiming at. Do you know what I mean? Gives me, like you said, like markers. But I think I went through it. I got my black belt and I was like, oh well, I can't go any further. Like, other than this, it's
plateaued.
just,
What do I do now?
Well,
just keep doing the same thing.
Well, I knew I could get better, but the motivation to get better was kind of gone without a goal. And it didn't take me long because, like, now I'm doing heaps more coaching now, which I like. So now it's kind of like just reinvest into, like, if you love something, you want to kind of want to share it with people too.
Absolutely.
And you want to get other people to enjoy the same thing. So you kind of just like, okay, well, let's now I'm coaching, and I like taking people aside and saying, okay, I can see that you do this well, let's make this and let's get you to this level. And now this new goal is to constantly be bringing other people up as well. So it's it's a little less one big goal and big, let's get you better at this, let's get you better at this, let's get you better at this. So there's something to that. But again, I guess once you've attained something, you've just got to find the next thing that keeps you getting better. Do you know what I mean? Because it still has to get you better though as well. Like, because you don't want to. Yeah, I think that's it. I think once you've hit a peak, and with you, like, how many more things is there to do? And I'm actually really curious. I ask that quite honestly. Like, I don't ask that facetiously, as in, oh, what an incredible thing. There's nothing that can possibly top that, because there might be. Like,
there will be. And I like, listen. There's already ideas floating around in my head, and I'm actually really content with this one.
I bet. I bet.
And in that, you know, I'm comfortable giving myself some time before I do anything. And I've got, you know, potentially, you know, talking to some doctors at the moment, but I potentially won't be able to run for the rest of the year. So I've had an injury for a few years. I've had you know, you know about it, this thing I've had going on in my foot for a while that we've been needling up, and was gonna have it worked on earlier in the year, and then made this. We're right. Keep needling.
Right.
Keep needling, and that's got to happen at some stage, like that. So maybe that's now, and that can give me, you know, a window to just, you know, work on my health a little bit and not have any big goals. But yeah, inevitably there'll be something. There's a few little things that have got a twinkle in my eye at the moment, but they're
so
different.
Well, that's what I was about to say. Like, do you pivot at any stage? Like, because I was actually going to ask this before, and we were talking about your prep, and you're talking about your running hills and all these running simulations. Did you? And you even said strength conditioning. And it was that like through kind of traditional gym work, or was it through more running?
No, gym work.
But that's what I mean. As long as I've ever known you, it's just been, I'm just going to keep running. No matter what it is. Like, you didn't really seem to have a lot of interest in anything else, but when you have to prepare for something so
I think
specific,
we sort of met right after I'd come out of triathlon and started doing trail running. Actually, I was thinking today, I remember after my first ultra, 60k up the road, we shot back down and had dinner at the Leagues Club, and I think I ate half the menu that night from memory. But it has been. But yeah, when you say, like, yes, strength is more, I mean, lightweights, but body weight, you know, lots of
a different
single leg squats and, you know, box jumps and, you know, all those sorts of things for activation and strength of, you know, particular muscle sets. And you do that early in your build. The bulk of that early in your build. You still do some maintenance and stuff, but you sort of build that base up. We call the base layer, the junk miles and things like that. So you've got the ability to step into the next, right, I'm going to be doing 80 to 100 Ks this week, and, you know, blah, 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 and build those things up. So you're trying to stagger yourself up over the blocks leading up to a race to peak at the right time, and that's hard. Like when you've done some, a lot of bushwalking and things like that. It's pretty hard. It's pretty easy to roll your ankle out there when you go for a bushwalk. So
absolutely,
when you're doing some pretty extreme hill sets and erosions and all that regularly and quick, it's you're running a fine line of not injuring yourself, not overtraining, and knowing you've literally got, like I say, you stand on the start line and the music starts, and that's it. We got one shot. So you spend 8 months. I mean, it's Olympians have 4 years to prep, but they say that you've got one shot, and when you're done, that's it. So it's a really fine line of getting that build, the training, and everything right to know that when the gun goes, you only get one crack at this.
Yeah, right. That's okay. So what I was I was interested in that, in if you had to do anything different in regards to just getting up and running, and it's a lot of it was still basically running based, but specifically running based in your hills and mountains and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So that was my next question. Like you said, something different. Do you ever just pivot and say, look, if I can't run for a year, do I go and do something else? Do I go and go and row a boat? Do you know what I mean? Like, and I don't mean like anything, because as you said, you've already done some Ironman stuff, but something just completely different. That's completely it's completely different skill set. That's because I've now been doing jiu-jitsu for 15 years. Before that, I did boxing for 7-8 years, and now I'm like, maybe I could do some MMA, and all this is all kind of similar. What's interesting, but
exactly. That's it. They're all sort of,
they're all combat, is
combat. I was going to say fight sports, or martial arts, whatever it be within that, but different versions of. And maybe. The approach I've got towards it is life's long. I don't want to stop.
Yeah.
There will be time. There's another sport that really intrigues me is adventure racing. Multi-day stuff where you kayak ropes, mountain bike, trail running. But there's time for that.
Sure.
And I'm going to leave that until I'm ready to change.
Sure.
Love riding bikes. I haven't been on a bike for 8 months because I just am terrified of coming off and doing a collarbone or something innocuous.
Especially when you're...
Exactly. So there's been all sorts. I was going to go out this afternoon, but it started bucketing rain today. But I was going to ride over here with a couple more beers in my bag. But things like that. So absolutely. When I last set of needles I got on this foot, I bought myself a rowing machine and cut some holes in my shoes so I could still get in there and get some exercise done without injuring the bit that was getting fixed. So absolutely, there's bits and pieces, but I think, will I do more 100 milers? Yep. Pretty confident. Would I do that one again? No, not more for the fact that I kind of learned with my Ironman that I did Ironman Australia as my first one, loved it, massive achievement, then went and did it again the next year to try and beat my time, and it kind of took a bit of a shine off the first one, because you did it again, and you're like, well, the first one wasn't as special because I just went and did it again.
That's interesting.
Which is so, like the 100 miler I did in New Zealand, one of the epic events in the world. So good. It's like really, really engaged with the Maori culture over there. When you finish, you get gifted a panamu, this stone that in Maori heritage, an elder has to gift you for high achievement.
Right.
That's the only way you can, theoretically get one. In culture over there. So to finish that, and I still put that on every now and then with pride, and just sort of hold it and go, that's a bloody big achievement. UTMB, that was special, man. Like the build up, the everything, the trip, the race. We can go into the race, I'm sure, but I don't want to take the shine off that. I'll never say never, but right now I look at that and I go, I just want to leave that up there.
You don't need to do it again.
I don't need to do that again.
Go
and do the 100K like that. Well, go and experience the week and the mountains and everything, but I just feel like that's special. So
right.
What happens next? There's a few different ways to pivot, but I like them to have some sort of meaning behind it, or something. There's some races that are longer. Yeah,
and
they might not be as big as a pinnacle event, but there's some that are longer. There's some in the mountains over there. There's the US has some really big races as well. that'd be cool to try and get into some. There's, mate, there's one that I was looking at the other day called, I might get this wrong, Spartathlon or something it is, but it's basically retracing the steps through Greece of Phidippides, the guy who saved the army by running as a messenger and died when he arrived from exhaustion, and all these mythical stories. You're like, man, how epic would that be to go and do as a run? Like, I like that. I don't know. There's a whole heap of things out there.
And you finish one thing, you've been super focused on that, and all of a sudden you're looking up.
I know, and it is a bit of a curse. And I have kept telling myself, just take a breath.
Stop and enjoy.
It's all good.
Your moment
too. And it's interesting that I was listening to a podcast, and I've tried to sort of act on this time. I was listening to a podcast not long ago of a pro that won a big US race, like US's biggest race, Western States, and he won it. And that runs, I'll call it a couple of months before UTMB. They're like the biggest in the States and the biggest in the world.
Yeah.
Similar sort of time.
Sure.
And he went straight out of one and started training for UTMB to see if he could do a double.
Yeah, right.
And he said, and he cooked himself. It was too much. He cooked himself that year. And he said on reflection, because I pivoted so quickly, I didn't enjoy the first one. Right. I didn't savor it. I didn't realize what I'd achieved. I turned my mind to the next thing straight away, and I regret it. I don't want to pivot so quick. I want to sort of enjoy this for a little while, and there'll be something. There'll inevitably be something. I don't quite know what it is yet, but I'll let you know.
All right. So now that's. I'm glad we kind of filled in a lot of those gaps in the lead up and all that kind of stuff. Let's get to the actual race. As you said, nothing can prepare you, and just the enormity of those mountains. Like, we kind of touched on it briefly, but I mean, I laughed because I was like, I just started running again. I decided I was meant to do a half marathon in Vanuatu through the jungle in July, and then some stuff happened with airlines, and I didn't go. Yep. So I as soon as I knew I wasn't going, I stopped, because I said,
there's no target. Yeah.
Not only no target, but as I said, I don't enjoy running.
Yeah.
I do not enjoy it. Like, the only thing that I'll get out of it is I can stick some headphones in, listen to some music, get into a rhythm, get some fit, get healthy.
Yeah.
That's more benefit. That I enjoyed that, the aftermath and the healthiness much more than I enjoy the actual run. Yeah. But I do love. For me, there doesn't feel like there's any fitness like running. Do you know what I mean? There's nothing like it. Like, it's completely different to other fitness. Like, you can go and, if you're a good runner, then you'll go and jump in a boxing ring and you'll be gassed in 2 or 3 rounds, because it's just completely different fitness. But I think for general health and opening up your lungs and all that kind of stuff, I've just found there's nothing like it. Which I hate, because I don't enjoy running that much. Which is funny, because all we know, you obviously know 1,000 runners, but even just in our smaller circle of people that we know together, there's all these people who run good speeds, and I'm like languishing behind that, and like
it's one of those sports though. It's trail especially. Like, road's a little bit different, but I was chatting to someone the other day, and like, what's the difference between like running a road marathon and a trail marathon? And the difference is, you finish a road marathon and tell people around the water cooler, and they'll say, oh, how quick did you go? What was the time? You do a trail run, and they'll say, oh man, did you see the sunset? Like, it's road running's about Strava segments and split times, and trail running's about sunsets and experiences. Like, it's really cool. And it's all about, did you get around? Did you finish it? How was it? What about that hill? Like, man, can you believe that? And when it rained, or whatever it be. And it's just a different. It's almost like surfing, in that yes, it's a competitive. There's competitive aspects to it and everything, but it's a soul sport.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
So I really love it for that reason. It's about the journey as much as it is about the result.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started training, and I was doing a run around Nora Head the other day, and running around the headland, down via the lighthouse, down the stairs, head around the headland, and I hit the headland, and as I hit that headland, this wind just kind of hits me, like hits my face. I'm like, okay, well, this is the way I'm going. I'm not turning around and going back up. I'm the easy way. I'm gonna take on this headwind and I start running. Then the wind's picking up more, sand's blowing up, getting smacked by sand. You know what I mean? Like, you know that feeling when like it blows up and it's like hitting you like pins and you go, oh, okay, this sucks, but whatever, I'm pushing through. Get to the end of that, and then the last bit of this is just like a small but steep run from a car up a car park up to the top. But it's when you're
the baths, like
that one? Exactly.
So the boat ramp.
Exactly right. And so and I was just like these three little things, and I just remember going, these things suck, and I was just thinking, Nick's just done this nonsense thing through altitude, through snow. And so I was really curious about the elements kind of thing, the difference in the elements that you had to face, and what were the things that were the challenges as far as like natural elements go. Like, because I am complaining about a 7K run that I did, for me, I was proud of myself because I battled through 7Ks, you know what I mean? So, but I was thinking, man, the elements there must have been something incredible. Running at night, I love night.
I love the night shift, which is good because heaps of people hate it. But I look forward to the night. There's something super simple about life when the only thing that matters is what's in the beam of your head torch. I love it.
Can I pause there for a second? Because I've got a bit of a, like, my background is, my family background is Christianity, and it's not mine at all. Well, my background is, but it's not my life at all. But I remember flipping something on its head, and they were talking about the idea of faith in itself, right? And it's one of my life philosophies, and it's really interesting that you bring up this life's what you see in the headline, because the idea of faith, though, in my theory, isn't the idea that I think Christians get this wrong. I think Christians talk about faith is believing in something that you don't see or that you don't know, and I'm like, no. For me, faith is having the knowledge of something you already know, but you can't see right now. So, for instance, on a sunny day, you'll be driving and you'll look out and you'll see mountain here, mountain there, paddock here, grassland. You'll see for miles on a beautiful sunny day. You can just take it all in. When the sun goes down and your headlights are only showing you what's in front of you, you don't see the mountains. You know they're there, but you can't see them anymore. But you can still believe and still have faith that they're there. They don't disappear because you already know they're there. But you need to make all your decisions now, not on the mountains, but based on the headlights of your car. Like in this case, the headlights. Like, so all of a sudden, you know the mountains are there, but you can't make decisions way up here seeing a corner. You can only now make your decisions based on this, knowing that you're on the right track.
And to flip that back, that's exactly how you had to approach this race. It's not just day, night, head torch, whatever. That, there's a lot to come, but I can't actually think about any of that now. All I can figure out is this bit. And when I figure that bit out, then I've got to figure out the next bit, and the next bit, and the next bit. And you're taking these bite-sized chunks. And like, to spin it back to, what were the challenging bits? Heaps, man. Like, it's 40 hours. So, people say, running a marathon is life-changing because you go to hell and back. We go 20 times. Like, and you come back knowing you're going there again. And when you're there, you're like, I've just got to get through this because I know I can get out of it. But I know when I get out of it, I'm coming back. And you do this for day and day and day. And it's biting these things off into things that are manageable. And when they're not manageable, you've just got to figure out a way through. What was challenging? There was a period, like, it was hot there, which I wasn't, yes, it's Europe and it was European summer, but we sort of sit here and go, European summer.
Yeah, that's right.
Nice, that's right. Yeah, sure. Everyone's dying because it just got to 25 degrees. But it was around about, on the second day, which was the full day I did, it was 28 to 30, which is pretty hot coming out of an Australian winter, but humid, which I wasn't expecting too. So it was sapping. energy out of you. Couple that with the fact that the bulk of these climbs are above the tree line because we're in an alpine environment, so zero shade, steep, and long, steep and long, super exposed, and like I at around the 80k mark came into the main checkpoint in Italy, so second country. That was the first point that Sarah, my crew, could be there. Rolled in and it was getting hot. Like changed shirt, changed some socks, had some food, loaded up on some kit and took off again. And I'd known this was coming because I knew it was going to be somewhere around the middle of the day. And you come out of this aid station, which is you sort of cool down a little bit. You have to. You've got to stop, get your gear, but you kind of lose your momentum a little bit.
Yeah, of course.
You come out of this aid and just go bushka, straight up this exposed climb.
Oh, wow.
And I knew that was coming, and I was like, right, you've got to get yourself ready for this. This is going to be hard. Don't let it be a surprise. This one's going to kick your ass. So be ready for it. And right at the base, I got bitten by a wasp.
Oh,
and
no.
I just like right on the ankle, and that started throwing my head, and my heart rate started going wonky, and I was ballpark 15, 20 hours into this. So I had even this one mountain I had to take in bite size. So I'd get up to a point and go, I need to sit down and get my heart rate down and get my head together. That was to try and deal with the moment. And I probably had to do that 10 times up this hill. The second half, every time I'd do that, I'd like go, right, I'm getting to that rock and I'm going to sit on that rock and I'm going to drink and I need to get to there. And I'd get to that rock and get there and far out. I just about fell asleep. What just happened? This is early for this to be happening.
Yeah.
This is early. Probably because it was a late start and, you know, all of these things. And it's like, oh, this is a night 2 problem that's happening in day 2.
Yeah, okay.
So how am I going to deal with this? And first priority, get to the top of this any way you can. If that means you got to sit and knock some sugars or whatever. You can't keep this up. Like, this is not sustainable.
Yeah.
But we can't look at what's sustainable. We've just got to look at this.
Yeah.
Get to the top. There's an aid station at the top. See the medics. Get something for this bite. Reassess. Where are we going? So get up there. Language barriers, having all sorts of issues up there. And get some cream. Get that. Whack some, mountain water in and sugars and all that. And I turned around the corner, and right beside a building was a table and a couple of people passed out under it, and I'm like, that's it, micro sleeps.
Right.
That's my key here.
That's your win.
So jumped on the iPod, got a little 10-minute sleep meditation. Boom, bang, out like a light, gone like a light switch. I've done this a heap of times.
Yeah.
Power napping, and the prompts, boom, wake back up again, and I'm like, I'm reborn. This is amazing. Let's go. I figured that bit out. Boom, running across the mountaintops, feeling good. Drop down into the next valley, big valley, into that aid station, and the lights started going out again. I'm like, okay, I know how to deal with this. Let's find shade, 10 minutes, boom, sugar, soup, get some big salts in, get some stuff, rebuild. And Sarah was trying to get there, and I didn't see her on the way into this aid station. I went, all right, cool, I'll power nap and get out. Knowing, leave that aid station and it's straight up to the highest point of the course in the afternoon on the hottest day.
Yeah.
And that was hard to leave, man. Knowing
That's it. Yeah.
This can't keep going, but it might not keep going. So I've got to do what I can now
to get
in case
through this
it doesn't
problem.
keep going. Yeah.
So if you fall
If that
down
didn't
later,
change, I wouldn't have finished.
Well, that's
But I had to
point.
get through
But
the next couple of hours to
see
get
if
to
it changed.
Exactly.
To see if it
right.
changed.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
And that was the same. That was the same story, man. Like, that was a big climb. Grand Col Ferret is a pretty well-known mountain. It's the border between Italy and Switzerland as well. So they don't put big borders on the top of little mountains over there. They link up the big ones. And that was 2,500 meters or something up to the top of that one. And that was the same thing. See that, get to that, stop, drink, look for something else. Boom, bite size. And that, an hour and a half took to get up that hill. And then the world changed, man. It was a 20k downhill on the other side of that, and just floated, flew, total game changer.
And that was about the halfway point, did you say?
Yeah. So it's probably 80 to 100 k's that window into there. So, and again, that's still a long way to go.
Yeah.
So that's in the back of your head as well. And I'd purposely, knowing I was going through 2 nights. Caffeine's a real good tool in this, but I'd been saving that up for the second half.
Sure.
Otherwise, you kind of blow yourself too early, and it doesn't work when you really, really need it. So, bomb that 20k downhill, just trying to look after the legs. Like people, you probably think, man, those mountains must kill your legs climbing up. Down, man. So down's way worse. It's so fatigue wise.
Well,
so
that's
much
what
harder.
I was gonna say. Like, and I think.
Because you can hike up them, but you just smash the daylights out of your quads and your
every
knees
time I've hiked up something, like I remember, like did a hike around, I think it's 20 k's or something around Kosciuszko.
Yep.
Go around the Blue Lake and then up, and I remember like the drama wasn't. I was.
I mean, up is hard, but down is unexpectedly hard.
I find up harder to do, but down more taxing.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, 'cause your knees are kind of, like...
you cop a lot of brunt. There's a real impact with all of that. And man, they're steep.
That's what I mean. Like,
there's some stuff there that is ludicrously steep.
Oh, incredible. Like, and that's what I mean. Like, this is, like I said, I think of, like, my own personal experiences in life, and they're just like this little microcosm of this battle that you're going through because you're in a race.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You've got it. And like I said, you can't just, I'll just finish eventually. I'll just stop and walk now.
No, you're getting chased by time. There was a point there, and early on, there was a point there when I was about 30 minutes ahead of that cutoff.
Yeah, okay.
And I knew, like I said earlier, that being a finals race, the cutoffs are far more legit.
Yeah.
Than most of the events in the series. So I'd sort of a lot of head work and mental work went into this, and I'm like, right, I've never had to deal with cutoffs before, never even contemplated them, always been far enough, I've never even thought of them. This time, gonna be at times close, like that's just what this race is. So I've almost got to get comfortable with, if I'm more than a couple of hours ahead of these cutoffs, I'm probably going too hard.
Yeah.
So it was like a complete mental shift that I go through the 20, 30k mark, whichever it was, and I'm like, I'm 30 minutes ahead. Instead of going, shit, I got to hurry up. I'm like, okay, this is where I thought I'd be.
Yeah, right. So you're in a comfortable zone, and if you're falling behind, well, it's interesting though, because you don't, like, if you miss a cutoff, you're done.
Yeah, just get in the bus, go.
Must, because you can't make it up.
Or get someone to come pick you up.
But you know what I mean? Like, you can't go, I'm behind.
You have to hand all your bibs in, and you probably could keep walking. But it is hiking tracks, so you probably figure it out. But the aid stations won't be there.
I just mean, though, that, like, if you're around that cutoff, you're like, well, I can make it up here. I know I need to get speed. But no, you have to stay far enough ahead of that cutoff to be like, oh, no, well, I'm still good, and I can afford to get ahead a bit further and slow down, or I can, that's an I hadn't actually thought about that. So each step you've got to be above a certain point, or you go home.
That little
half an hour would have felt real close in a 40-hour race.
Yep, and that little area that I just sort of spoke about, those 2 big climbs and the descent down into Switzerland. What was one of the reasons that was a real game changer was that was the worst part of the day. That was when I was at my worst. I was struggling with the heat. I'm a pretty big guy. The bigger you are, the harder it is for heat dissipation and this sort of stuff. So, like, it's not ideal. And in my head, I'm like, I've got to get to the night.
Yeah, and
I've got to get to the night. That's where I do my best work.
What was the difference between the day and the night as far as temperatures go?
Oh, 10 to 15, depending on where you were. I mean, at night, which is beautiful, magic weather.
But if it's
clear
going
night,
from high
it was
20s to 15, 16 to go, that's
quite
good. Comfortable.
Really good. And I mean, some of the summits were cold.
Yeah,
but you're in an alpine, so you get that sort of stuff up there. There's still snow at the high passes and things like that. But what was great is I knew, like I'd sort of said, I've just got to figure out how to get through this bit and then see what happens. Left that last aid station, got to the high point of the race, bombed down into the next aid station, and went, right, I got it done. I figured out a way. Okay, and I got in there and I went, and I've actually just put 30 more minutes between me and that gap. So I've gained time at my worst.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
we're
on. We're fucking on here.
Yeah, that's good.
And getting into that night, I got the confidence back. Getting into that aid station, I'm like, it's caffeine time. This is when we ride the wave. Mad coffee, had a big feed, took off, head torch on, party time.
Yeah.
Cranked the tunes, it's on here. And from that point, everywhere I went, I was gaining. And I went from, call it 30, 45 minutes ahead of cutoff to 5.5 or something, whatever it was, by the time I finished. And that was that little bit to go, at my worst, I'm okay.
So is this the point where you're like, I'm gonna finish this race?
No.
Like, where do we get to that? At what stage? How far out?
The top of the last hill.
Yeah, really.
Yeah,
and that's when you.
Well, that's when you start. That's when you believe it.
Wow. Okay.
That's when you believe it. That's when you allow yourself to believe it.
That's awesome. That's a mind fuck though. Really.
Total.
Like, I mean, it's just waiting.
And like, to get to that point though, like getting to that aid station, putting a little bit of time in, didn't have me go, I can finish this now, but I could see a way to finish it now. That's different.
Yeah, okay.
I think this is possible, but bite size. Where's the next aid station? That's 4 hours away to the next aid station. I'm going to need this many bottles. I'm going to need this many gels. It's going to take me this much time. Let's go. Boom, get into that aid station. Right, I've got this hill, that descent, this flat, 3.5 hours, and I'll get to that bit. Boom, boom, tick, tick, tick. But it's like some of that stuff in the back half of the field was the steepest, like nuts.
Yeah, okay.
And honestly, the steepest part of that course, I'd come through, a friend of mine had done the 100K the day before, and she was talking to Sarah, and having never run the course before, I was sort of going off people I chatted to, looking at the route maps, watching previous editions of the race, which, you know, doesn't get coverage everywhere, as I'm sure you saw. And I was leaving this aid station. I'd come into this aid station going, okay, so I started getting a bit wobbly on that last one. I'm just going to have my final little 10-minute smash here and get my head together, because the next bit's pretty technical, and if my head's not right, like I mean, without being overly dramatic, the fall there is...
Oh, yeah.
They don't see you hit the bottom.
Yeah,
it's a long way.
That's, right.
So,
okay.
And I was like, okay, it makes sense to take 10 minutes here and be safe. And she and I sort of got up from that, went, right, let's go. And she goes, are you feeling good? And I'm like, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. She goes, cool. This is the hardest climb. I'm like, is it? She goes, yeah. I spoke to Anna and she said this was the worst. I'm like, Anna did the 100K. She didn't see the big ones at the beginning. But it kind of put this thing in my head. I'm like, is it? Because it didn't look that bad on the map.
Yeah.
Is it? And I'm glad I had that little thing in the back of my head, because it was freaking mental.
Yeah, right.
And if I didn't have that little bit, it probably, don't say it would have DNF'd or whatever, but it would have hit me a hell of a lot harder if I hadn't been going, is this hard?
Yeah.
I mean, they're all hard, but why would she, and she's a good runner.
Yeah, okay.
Why would she say it's the hardest of the race?
And
interesting. Okay.
So it's in your head thinking, brace yourself, be ready. And that's a good bit of advice, isn't it?
But then coming down into these things, like most of these towns are ski fields. Like we're in the Alps. And there seems to be, especially on one side of the range, there seems to be this trend of the last 50 vertical meters, which is a lot, being real steep, but really rugged. Like not even a trail, not even a... So it's like boulder route.
Right.
And 45 degrees.
Yeah, okay.
And you're like, how do we get over this? And it takes... There was one section towards the end, coming up the last climb, that it probably took an hour. For me and a couple of other runners, we sort of just ended up in the same spot. We weren't really working together, but probably took an hour to go 1.5 K. It was that technical. And that's playing your own games in your head, like, man, where's this cut off? What am I doing? We're in trouble here. Super technical. So when I say you can see a way for it, but you don't allow yourself to believe it, man, you can, like, one guy snapped his pole in half. The other guy tripped over and did something to his shoulder. Like, there's a lot of things that can go wrong with another 60 k's to go of this. So
Yeah.
you can see a route.
It seems so silly.
But you don't get that anywhere near.
It seems so silly, like talking about your last 50 k's, also of a 170k race, or sorry, even let's drop
anything.
it.
Yeah.
Let's drop it back. Let's say last 20 k's or something. Yep. That's still 20 k's
and really hard to 20 k's.
This is what I was kind of getting at before. Did you get to a point where you knew that you were good? But I guess you don't, because at any stage something can happen.
Well, I mean, the time. So there's a point really late in the race, and it took, like, I didn't know how to get to this point on the course. That it was a bit of a reroute from the last couple of years, and it was all undercover and really technical and whatever. But there was a point that started, and you hit a ski field, and you climbed straight up this ski field to the ski lift station at the top. Then you just bombed these zigzags the whole way down to Chamonix. That's, famous on the broadcast.
Yeah,
the last bit. My coach finished second in a 50k last 2 years there, and there's this, amazing footage of him blasting past people up the hill, making last spots and checking over his shoulder. I got this. I've got to get to there. And when I start that, I know it. I know what's coming. So I've got that as a measurable in my head. And the moment I came through those trees, I'm like, I got this. We're good.
Yeah, nice.
And for 24 hours leading up to that, it's this, like, I had, when your head's in different places, you get a bit wonky with things, but I'd coined this term of quadservation in my head, that, like, yep, you can make time up down the hills, but if you overdo it, you're cooked.
Yeah, right.
And it doesn't come back. When you've blown these quads, they don't come back.
Yeah.
Quadservation, look after yourself a little bit.
Yeah, right.
Look after this. Yeah, that foot's starting to go a little bit. Just calm down.
Yeah.
We've got to get through this. We've got to get through this. And I came through those trees and went, bury it.
Nice.
Got this. And this, it's a ski field, dude.
So
it's a big hill. Still a ski field. So I just, on the poles, passing people, smashed it, cooking, sweating, get to the top, aid station, and there's a guy up there with a tank and a hose. I'm like, drown me, man. Drown me, dripping, yanked the boots up as tight as they go, and just went, don't care about toenails, don't care about blisters, don't stop until the finish line, let's go. And that was...
Okay, stop.
It's probably like a 45-minute descent.
We'll come to that, because I want to finish. That's where I want to finish the thing. I want to ask one other thing before we cue the inspirational music and have the, the big ending.
The award-winning music.
Yeah, that's right.
For those in the know.
That's right. So anyway, you talked about the DNF, the did not finish.
Yeah.
Now, obviously that's in your head the whole time, but I was watching your little stat, you go up and down. The other thing I'm watching is your ranking. And throughout the whole race, and I think there's an overall ranking and an age ranking, or what, like category ranking.
Yeah.
And I'm watching your ranking go higher and higher every time, every section of the race, and I'm just like, is he just nailing it past people, or are they not
efficiency?
finishing?
I think altogether, I think efficiency is probably.
And I'm really curious about the did not finish, because, as you said, people could not finish for a bunch of different reasons at a bunch of different stations in between places in some pretty nasty spots.
Yeah.
Did you have to pass anyone who was just done, or and if you got to, or did they kind of, was it mostly the people who did not, they got to points and were able to be looked after and stuff?
It's probably
like
a hard
that?
one to answer, to be honest. One thing I noticed over there, there's a few idiosyncrasies of Euro racing that we probably don't have over here. People were sleeping on the side of trails in the most bizarre locations.
That's what I mean. Like, it's
and I'm confident they were all okay.
Yeah,
but they'd obviously hit some sort of wall and needed it, as I did on a couple of occasions as well. Made up some spots there.
It's not
there
even
were people.
It's not even the ranking that I mean, but I mean that seeing people just be done.
Yeah.
I reckon it'd be a mental challenge in itself. Seeing that people are like, who are
it almost gives
probably
you
trained
your
as
own
much as you did,
Yeah.
and like it's either gonna spur you on to be like, I'm doing okay, this person's cooked, or you could be like, man, I'm struggling here, and this person's just given up. It'd be so easy to just stop.
Yeah. Mate, you can look at it two different ways. You know, through this one, I kind of chose to say, well, they're cooked and I'm still doing better.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, like everyone's cooked. Don't feel bad that you're struggling
Because
everyone's
cooked.
struggling.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's a good thing to have in your head. And, you know, I've had a lot of little, you know, mental triggers and phrases and things in my head, but one that, you know, different ones land on you on different days. But one that hit me a few times was, well, two. One was it'd be really sad to finish this just when it got interesting.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah,
You know,
I like that. That's okay.
And the other one, and you might choke me up here, but the other one was, imagine telling your kids you stopped because it was hard. Fuck that.
That's awesome.
Why didn't you finish? It was hard. Of course it was hard. That's when the party starts.
You know what I love?
You know?
Like there's okay. Like I know what you're saying there, but there's hard and then there's hard.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, but look, I still think mentality though, it's the same.
Yeah.
And,
Well, and Sarah had said to me the day before, like, because I've DNF'd twice. One was legit, one I was just weak. You know, and I look at that and go, well, could I finish? Don't know. Could I have kept going? Yeah.
yeah, okay.
Yep. And that was one. And Ellie, you know my kids.
Yeah, yeah.
We came back from that trip and that race, and she said she'd gone in and done show and tell for our trip, and we'd done the Great Ocean Road, and we'd done this and we'd done that. So I didn't tell them about your race. I'm like, oh, why didn't you do that? She said, oh, I didn't want them to know you were a quitter. I'm like,
I don't want to laugh because I know how
and
much,
I just went,
I know how much that
oh,
would have hit.
is that how you see that?
Oh.
Right, I'm not doing that again.
Oh.
But the day before, we're sort of running through stuff with Sarah and, you know, going through, and she says, we're only not finishing this with a broken bone or something, right? And I said, even then, it depends what bone. Do you know what I mean? Like,
It's not going to be the heart. It's not
yeah.
going to be the broken heart. It's going to be.
I can do this with a shoulder, a collarbone or something if it comes to that. You know, like there's some legitimate ones that will actually stop you, but there's a hell of a lot more that will expose you to what you got. These races are a bit of a mirror, man, and sometimes you don't like what you see, and sometimes you do, but you see yourself, you know, like you it strips it all back, and you're either going to do it or you're not.
That's awesome. So let's do it. Let's talk finish line. This must be, considering, like, as far as goals go, this is probably the biggest one of your life.
Yep.
I don't like. I know you've had a lot of big goals over
Yeah.
the years, but this is just an incredible feat.
Yeah.
You're there. You're home. You're coming down the finish line. Sarah's there. I think she's filming as you go. The videographer in me wants you to carry a GoPro the whole damn way.
Some do.
But,
we'll get into it, but
also the other part of me is like, I don't want to carry anything other than what I have to. Yeah, and for sure. What you need is another runner to grab a GoPro who you're going to be sticking near. Like, you just
And
make
they
sure
can
you
do the
stay
filming.
just
Yeah,
ahead
yeah.
of them, and they can see you back the whole time. And then that's probably better footage anyway. Sorry, more videographer talk. So finish line's there. You're about
the town's there.
Yeah, but you're about to finish this biggest goal of your life stuff.
Mm-hmm.
What's going through the head at that stage? And as you cross that finish line, what are the feelings? What does the body feel like?
Amazing.
What is it? Tell me. I want to hear it.
So, I mean, this race is big for a ton of reasons. Like, a ton of reasons. It's a pinnacle for a reason. There's so much content around this race, from broadcasts, from stuff that the event puts on, from runners who create their own "this is me in this race" kind of doco, and I've absorbed everything, man, everything. Like, at one point there was call it a 10-minute video that was basically a description of the course. For 2 months I watched that every day. that was part of the discipline. Like, I need to know this inside out. I need to, everything I can absorb, I absorb. And every bit of that content has this iconic sequence of cresting that last ski slope, bombing that descent, cross a bridge over the main road into town, and then you're running through these beautiful European city streets. So everyone's out at cafes and bars, and everything finishes with that. So when I said, I got to that point where I knew what was coming. It was all measurable, it was all achievable, and I went, now bury it, everything. We don't conserve now. Had some horrific blisters from that last downhill and felt every one of them, and I didn't care. It was everything I wanted it to be. And I crossed that bridge, got into town, and I was in the movie. I know that sounds stupid.
No, I love it. I love it.
And I'm running through town. You probably got 2 Ks once you cross the bridge and hit into town, and had 175 Ks in the legs and started running 5-minute Ks. and it was bliss, man. Like, I don't know, pain went, everything was good. Run through town. One of the guys from work was halfway through town. Like, I had so many people, colleagues and friends and stuff that just were in town there and popping up in places I wasn't expecting, and running through these little city streets and everyone cheering, and you got your name on your bib, so they're screaming your name out, and I was biting my lip, trying not to. I needed to find a little quiet corner and have a moment, and you're in it, and then you turn that final corner. MCs, that's that arch that I've been looking at for years. Done it, man. Done it. Epic, just epic. Like, it's like I said, I'd spent so long not picturing that it was almost a surprise when it was there. And you went, it's just soak it in, man. Like, this is epic. And it was everything I'd seen in the movies, man. Like, it was just sort of hard to actually picture yourself in that moment. Dug deep for months, man, to get to the start line, and the finish line was always in question. Like, it's hard.
Yeah,
it's hard, man. Like, I know some other people that I work with, and I know over here that have done that race, and just done that race. Like, one guy I know was within about 15 minutes of cut off at the end, and he's not, like, he's better than me at some stuff.
Yeah,
like someone I work with had done it in. I didn't know the time. I didn't want it in my hair, but it was 45-ish. Right. I knew it was, with a bit of a buffer, but not a lot. And through this whole training bit, you look at your segments of your sessions and see how you're going and how you're building, and then you look and go, far out. When she did it, she was quicker on that climb than me. So you've got it in your head that my peers struggle at this race. Okay. This is not a foregone conclusion. Like, this is, so when you actually see yourself there and go, like, I can crawl from here, and I got time. Like, I can crawl from here. And knowing too, actually, that I'd had a really rough spot, like I said, sort of getting through to that last ski slope. But when I got there and I hit that aid station at the top of the hill and saw the time and the cutoff, and I went, not only am I going to do this, but I'm
punching it.
I'm punching this.
Yeah, that's
like,
so good. Coming home
got
strong.
This. Bury this, man. Give it everything. And that's. I'm glad it's a big race with lots of photos and videos and stuff, because I don't want to ever forget that. I'll have that forever.
I'll tell you something, and like we'll finish on that, because I don't think we can get any better than that description. But you talked about not too long ago about how your daughter didn't want to talk about your race.
Yeah,
because you're a quitter.
Didn't want to know I was a quitter.
And to be honest, and
you know what though?
But realistically,
I was that day.
Okay,
and she probably didn't realise it. But when she said it, I'm like, you know what?
Yeah, okay.
She's right.
I'll I'll take you on that one. I could defend you. I won't. I'll let you. I'll let you deal with that. However, yeah, I'll let you deal. But now, you've now not only completed one of the toughest runs on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
On the planet, you have now defeated the toughest runs, but you've now got something that your kids can say that their dad achieved that has been achieved by this many people.
Yeah. Yeah.
By this little people.
Yeah.
You have done something that your family is proud of you for.
Mm-hmm.
Your friends are proud of you for.
Yeah.
Mate, we followed along on the chat.
Blew me away, man.
No, mate, we were so in your corner.
And
like
so many people were.
We've missed you
moving.
Moving. We've missed you this year on the podcast. Like I say that I've been. If you would said at any stage I'm back, I'm like, yeah, of course, get back on here. But mate, we're so proud of you, and mate, we've become really good mates in the last couple of years, and it's like this year, you can say we haven't seen each other hardly at all, really, because of the discipline. That's what I mean, right?
And it's not always great, but it's kind of what it takes.
The good thing is it doesn't, like, we can come in here and sit and talk like this,
we saw each other yesterday.
Yeah, right. Mate, I'm immensely proud of you.
Thanks, man.
Immensely proud of you, and I know your family, and I know this is an achievement that no one in the scheme of things has done. And I know people have done it. And it's really kind of hard to imagine when your peers are the people doing this thing. Do you know what I mean? The people around. So you're kind of like, oh, well, I do the same thing with when I look at my achievements in life, I go, okay, only this many people have gotten this far in jiu-jitsu. Only this many people have been able to release an album, just anything, what it is. And sometimes you really have to step back and look at the bigger picture and not just the people around you, and realize you have done something now that is so rare that is an achievement for life. And mate, you've done it at, how old are you now? Like
42, so 42, I reckon the best years are ahead, hey?
Maybe. Mate, you know what?
An endurance sport, maybe.
What's funny, I sometimes wonder if we, in your 20s, you're too busy focusing on other things. And it could have been your athletic prime, but your mental prime is a different thing. Mate, I'll end it on this. Congratulations.
Thanks, man.
Well done. Incredibly impressive. I'm going to shake your hand.
Cheers, man.
Well done.
Cheers.
Absolutely. You got none left there.
I've got a spare.
Mate, okay, I'll leave it at that, mate, because I can't think of any way better to finish that than that. So, and I don't know how to end this one because this is a dual podcast. But until next time.
until the next post-race interview.
Until the next post-race interview. Well done, and we'll see you next time.